Section 165 is the repeal of incarceration incentive grants to states. It repeals subchapter 1 of Chapter 121 of Title 34. Again, back in the 90s, as part of the getting tough on crime thing, the federal government, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, quote, to assure that offenders served a large portion of their sentence, the U.S. Congress authorized funding for additional state prisons and jails through the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994. And so these additional funds were contingent on enacting laws that required incarcerated people to serve at least 85% of their sentence, the truth in sentencing provisions. Now, prior to this, in large part, parole boards had wide latitude to release people, and so somebody sentenced to 10 years, maybe after 3 or 4, you might be eligible for release, or but it was unlikely that they would serve the prison sentence. Was more like the maximum sentence. And so there was an incentive to be well behaved in prison, to try and improve yourself and to demonstrate that you had been reformed, because of the latitude that prison parole boards had. Now, when we switched the model to say truth in sentencing, and it escalated mass incarceration even more by extending the sentences that people were actually serving. It took away a lot of the incentives that people had. Didn't take them away as much as reduced the incentive. And so within a year of the passage of this provision by Congress, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Kansas, Maine, Michigan, Mississippi, New York, North Dakota, Oregon, and Virginia all adopted these truth in sentencing provisions, where offenders would have to serve at least 85% of their sentence in order to qualify for these grants to build more prisons. And so this was a big boon for the prison industrial complex, to create, keep people in prison longer, at the same time get funding for building new prisons. Now, as far as I can tell, these grants aren't still being issued. All the states who are going to adopt them, and the vast majority have already done so. But repealing these incentives is another one of the demands from the prison strike. And so, yes, we can go ahead and repeal the incarceration incentive program. As I dug through the section that's being repealed, I found among the supporting details that Section 12,113 of Title IV, there's a law that essentially allows the federal government to transfer law enforcement money from one state to another if the first state had someone who was convicted of murder or a sexual offense, and then they moved to another state and were charged and convicted of the same crime, unless that first state ensured that the person served at least 85% of their sentence. So if you don't want to potentially be penalized under this section of law, you've got to ensure that people who have been convicted of these crimes serve at least 85% of their sentence. And so that's another provision that will be repealed under this act. None of this is to say that people who've been convicted haven't done anything wrong, or that there shouldn't be, that these methods are, the objection here is these is a one-size-fits-all solution, to say that anyone who has been convicted of a crime must serve at least 85% of their sentence before they're rehabilitated, because that's not accurate. And so, to build a better America, to recognize everyone's innate ability for self-improvement, for rehabilitation, this one-size-fits-all solution of 85% should be re-examined and repealed on the federal level with this section. And so with that, I think that concludes my testimony on Section 165.